today, and it said that 40% of what you hear from me today, you'll forget by the end of the day. 40% you will forget by the end of my speech, 60% by the end of the day, and 90% by the end of the week. So I'm trying to figure out, well, how can I make sure you remember a little bit more than that? I've actually had a pretty good track record. I spoke at the International Space University 4 years ago and mentioned 2 words as a joke that ended up getting tweeted and almost ended my career. So we won't be doing that today. And then 3 years ago, I spoke at the International Symposium it's down in Las Cruces, for the International Symposium on Public and Commercial Space Activities. And I made a comment there that they actually mentioned at this year's conference. So I'm going to try to keep things a little more in line because I don't need any more career-limiting discussions. What I want to try to talk to you about this morning, and what we'll follow up in our panel in the next session, are a couple things. If you want to really piss me off this morning, tell me 2 different things. One, as my cab driver from the airport said, NASA's out of business. Or 2, NASA doesn't know how to communicate. And I will guarantee you we will get into a fight if you tell me any of those things. So I want to dissuade you, and I think you've heard over the last day or so that certainly NASA is not out of business. Next, I want to talk about some of the communication reforms we're trying to do to make sure that the public understands all the great things NASA's doing. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about what the opportunities are for you all. The opportunities abound. I'm so jealous of you all for what's about to happen over the next 5 to 10 years and the part you can be able to play. The average age of NASA is 47.5. So when I was a student and running a student organization, I'd be sitting out there thinking about, well, when is that asshole up on the stage going to quit so I can get that kind of a cool job? So now I'm up here, I can retire next month, so you don't have to worry about me. But there are a lot of opportunities, and in the next 5 years or so, there's going to be a tremendous turnover in the space program, both at NASA and in private industry. And I think there's going to be some great opportunities for you all to pursue for your careers. The other thing is, right now, the head of NASA's Human Resources told me that we are seeking over 100 jobs right now for NASA. So go to usa.jobs if you want to come on board right now. So from a communications point of view, our challenge is that we're at the end of an era. The space program was so identified with the shuttle. And now that shuttles aren't flying anymore, I think that's why the cab driver said to me, well, NASA must be out of business. And you've seen over the past month or so where we moved the final 2 shuttles to their next mission, which is an education mission at museums. The latest one was down at the Kennedy Space Center with Atlantis, going to the Kennedy Visitor Center, and the Endeavor, which just went out to California. They did this 12-mile parade from the airport to the California Science Center, where they had millions of people on the street watching that come down. But because of that visibility of the shuttle and not flying anymore, people seem to think we're out of business. And nothing can be farther from the truth, because again, as you've seen over the last day or so from the other speakers, there's a lot of things going on as we continue to explore space. And the quote that got me in trouble at International Space University was that there were so many people saying that under the Obama administration, and I'm a political appointee, so I'll make that clear, was that the Obama administration was putting NASA out of human spaceflight. And I think it's like 48% of NASA's budget is dedicated to human spaceflight. So we're hardly out of business. And as we talked to this morning, the International Space Station is orbiting the Earth with 6 people on board. It has been habited for 12 years. So we're clearly not out of the human spaceflight business. From a communications point of view, we also have to help promote the NASA vision, which is, and you've heard that several times from other speakers, especially from NASA, and we hope you hear that all the time from speakers from NASA, to reach for new heights, reveal the unknown, so that what we do and learn will benefit all of humanity. That's what we're in business to do. That's what we try to communicate. But we do all that with 0.5% of the federal budget. Most people, when you do surveys, think that NASA's budget is right up there next to the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has a, I forget what the latest numbers are, but it's something like a $600 billion budget. NASA is $17 billion. So we are 0.5% of the federal budget, and because of our visibility, I think people think we spend a lot more, but on the other hand, the public thinks we spend more on most programs than we actually do. But that's the fact of the matter, 0.5%. At the height of the Apollo program, we were at 4.5%. So the decimal point was considerably moved over. So for what we do with that small amount of money, I think the public is getting a great return on investment, but what we need to do as communicators is make sure the public understands that. Our priorities right now, as the administrator has laid out constantly, and the president has directed us, are three things. We are supposed to fully utilize the International Space Station as a research facility, and along with that, and at the same time, is to help promote a commercial space industry. And we're doing that with companies such as, what you see on the bottom there, the Dream Chaser from Sierra Nevada. You all know about SpaceX and their great success lately. And then, as Chris just mentioned, Orbital Sciences, which will soon be launching out of Wallops. So that's priority number one. Number two is developing the Space Launch System. Some people call it the Senate Launch System, along with the Orion vehicle. Those are two things that kind of survived from the cancellation of the Constellation program. The SLS will take us beyond Earth orbit for missions back to the Moon, Mars, or asteroids, and the Orion will be the human spacecraft that does that. And then finally, as Chris also mentioned this morning, is the third priority is getting the James Webb Telescope launched in a timely fashion. Now, that doesn't mean we don't do a whole lot of other things, but these are the three top priorities. So let's talk a little bit about this notion that NASA doesn't know how to communicate. And if you want to come up and say that to me later, I'm going to bop you in the nose. We do extraordinary amount of communication venues. And what I hope we'll talk during the panel is, what are we doing wrong then when people still think we're out of business? In the social media venue, NASA is considered a leader of government agencies for social media. On our website, we got a rating of 82 out of a recent survey of customer satisfaction, and that ranked right up there next to Google and Netflix. We were far ahead of any other government agency in terms of customer satisfaction. We've had 150 million visitors to our website in 2011. 2012 has already surpassed that. Time Magazine rated our website as one of the top 50 sites in 2012. The Curiosity landing garnered 14.7 million visits, 36 million web streams. That's the biggest online event we've ever had. We've gotten 5 Webby Awards for our NASA website, including the Judges Award and the People's Choice Award. For Twitter, we are, again, one of the leaders in government agencies for Twitter. We have over 400 accounts for Twitter, which may be part of the problem. There may be too many of those, and we're too dispersed. And the NASA account alone has over 3 million visitors. The next government agency, or actually the government agency that has more than that, is the White House, with slightly more than what we have at 3 million. But that doesn't include all of our combined accounts. We got a Shorty Award, which is the kind of the Emmys for social media this year, and we've had 45 NASA, what we call NASA socials, used to be called NASA tweet ups, and those average about 75 people per time, per event. If you've never done that, if you'd like to get in and see kind of an inside look at NASA, I highly recommend that when we put out the call for registration for a NASA social that you sign up. You get to hear from NASA officials, you get kind of a behind-the-scenes view of wherever the site is that we're doing it, and you get some intimate connection with the speakers at those events. The next one we're having is in December with Joe Acaba, who just came back from the space station, and he's a former educator, so we're going to do that at headquarters. We've had over 200 people who signed up for that. So I highly recommend that you try to participate in one of our NASA social events. And also, we are the first government agency to participate in a Google Plus activity. And I must admit, I have no idea what that means because I've not participated in it myself, but I'm told it's really cool. We're on YouTube heavily. YouTube for both NASA activities, but also it's great to go to YouTube to see what people outside the agency are doing. Like up here in the left-hand corner, Hank Green. If you've not seen his site, it is called Increase the Awesome. And this guy is like highly caffeinated and has done a series of presentations about NASA where he talks about increasing the awesome, reducing the suck of what we do. And he's had over 65,000 visitors to that site. He started off on his own. I think somehow we now have a relationship with him, but highly entertaining and seems to be great for your demographic. Secondly, in the upper right corner there, you see this was a take from NASA, and we're NASA and you know it. I wish I could say this was a NASA-produced activity. This was a bunch of, again, highly caffeinated California kids that went out and did their own YouTube video, and it's kind of a takeoff to, I'm sorry, forget what the song is that it's a takeoff of. Yeah, I'm sexy and you know it. Which I'd never seen, but these guys are out there, and I put out a weekly update to stakeholders. And I got some, when I put this out there to have people take a look at it, from the Apollo era people, I got highly negative returns that said, oh, this thing is disgusting. This makes NASA look horrible. How dare you spend money on this? Well, the fact of the matter is we didn't spend any money on it. It was done by these group of students on their own. There's actually a scene in it that looks like they're in the Jet Propulsion Lab's mission control, which was not the Jet Propulsion mission control. They simulated that. And this video has had over 2 million visits on YouTube. So you can say you don't like it. You can say from the Apollo era people that it's demeaning to NASA. But somehow the people in your demographic seem to really get off on it. And I think it's fantastic. We should do more of that kind of thing. And then the other one, the 7 Minutes of Terror, which I hope you've all seen, was the video that was produced by NASA, by Jet Propulsion Lab, that showed what it was like for the Mars Curiosity coming to land. And that also has had over 2 million hits. Now, the other thing we've been doing is the orbiter transfers. And you've heard about that a little bit from the other speakers. I'm thankful that these orbiters are finally transferred. We don't have to deal with them anymore, because I'm so tired of dealing in the past. This was a great activity for NASA for 30 years. The shuttle was a supreme vehicle, did wonderful things, helped us assemble the space station, but it's done. It is over, and get over it. And we knew it was going to be done for the past 6 years, 7 years, or even longer, when George Bush, the previous administration, decided to cancel further shuttle flights. But now we've done these great things. We've had programs in New York City with the Enterprise. And by the way, here's a hint to the people in New York City at the Intrepid. When a hurricane is coming, you probably need to do more to protect the vehicle than throw a tarp over it, because we had some damage on the tail. We've had the Atlantis just this past weekend out at Kennedy, the Endeavor out in California, and Discovery is now at home at Udvar Hazy Center at the Air and Space Museum in Washington. Those were all great events. They brought out thousands of people. In the case of the parade in New York, or in Los Angeles, it was over 1 million people. But what we really wanted to focus on, which was hard to do from a communications point of view, because the shuttle is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room in the big photo op, was to focus on the present and future. So we had a lot of exhibits there. You see in the bottom left-hand corner, we had Orion at the Udvar Hazy event in Washington, D.C. It was also down at Kennedy. This is on the bottom right is the Dragon capsule at the Kennedy Center. At Kennedy, we had the Dragon, the Boeing vehicle, and the Dream Chaser were all there to show what the future is going to be like. We had hundreds of NASA employees there that were manning exhibits. So we use this as an opportunity to talk about our current and future activities. We've had, through communications, we do a lot of multi-center collaboration. We do that through launches. How many people here have seen a launch? Oh, great. Well, you can continue to do that. Even though we're not launching shuttles, the ELV launches are still just as exciting and thrilling. So our office handles guest operations. We bring people down to the Kennedy Space Center, or we're going to start bringing them to Wallops when orbital launches and the Vandenberg Air Force Base. We give them briefings, and then we take them out to the launch. Also, we do exhibits. What happens at a lot of conferences is every NASA center shows up with their own exhibit. We wanted to try to bring that as kind of a one NASA exhibit so it didn't confuse people and they see all the great things the agency does. So we've made a real attempt at these conferences to have a kind of a one NASA presence, and we've had a lot of luck over that last year. We collaborate with over 400 museums through the Museum Alliance, and this is an example of what we did with the Mars Curiosity landing. And a lot of these museums had sleepovers. Now, I got to tell you, I've been to a lot of NASA activities, and as Bob Cabana said yesterday morning, how exciting can a landing on Mars be when you aren't actually be able to see it? Well, hundreds, thousands of people around the country went to museums. They had sleepovers, they had presentations, and they were there when Curiosity landed, and all they heard was the feed from the Jet Propulsion Lab. I led the one at headquarters. We had a full auditorium, over 300 people, and it was absolutely thrilling. And as I said, you didn't see anything. All you heard was, you know, the Curiosity has landed. It was a really big deal. We have Space Act agreements and activities with groups like Third Rock Radio. Have any of you listened to Third Rock Radio? Please do so. It's an online music activity. They broadcast current music that's kind of to your demographic, and then they intersperse that with news about NASA. And they show up at our conferences. They've done things with the International Space Station, and they do both. I kind of wish now I forgot about it. I should have had them come to this conference, and then you could have been interviewed by them and talk about your interest in space. So Third Rock Radio on the website. You can look at it on, I think, NASA. You look at our main website on the Connect section and try it out sometime. We have a Space Act agreement with Lego. Lego bricks in space, and we've actually taken Legos up to the space station. You see in the upper right-hand corner there where they assemble the Legos into a space station. But we have these events at the Kennedy Space Center, and they'll come and they will dump thousands of Legos on the floor. And students or kids and their parents come in, and I mean, I have a hard time with Legos even with the instruction. These kids go in there, they have 1 hour to dive into the pile of Legos and create what they call launch the future. And so they do all these different things. In the bottom left you see they produce rockets, space stations, rovers, airplanes, mission control centers. And they do that by diving into these piles, find the pieces they need, and then create these wonderful pieces. And down in the bottom right corner, Lego even created 3 figures for the Juno mission. And those are historical figures. So we've got a great relationship with Lego. They have a legospace.com website, which is an educational site. And anytime I tweet about Lego, it is the most retweeted thing that I put out there, which is amazing to me. I mean, I think I put out a lot of interesting things, but Lego is clearly the thing that is tweeted the most. Angry Birds, you all know about Angry Birds. We have a relationship with them. You see in the upper right, Don Pettit used Angry Birds as a way to explain physics to students. And that's a great, you can look that up online and see how he did that. Angry Birds has had over 100 million downloads since it came out. We think that may actually be passed by, it's either this past week or this coming week, they're going to do a Angry Birds with Star Wars. Although we may be passed up by that. So Angry Birds is a wonderful way to reach out. Again, they've got things on their website that helps us communicate about space. The thing we're trying to do now, another thing we do is a lot of celebrity engagement. You've seen Colbert. He actually got behind us when we were renaming one of the elements of the space station, and he got so many friggin' people that responded that we were in a bad spot of, well, do we really have to name one of the modules Colbert? So we made a deal with them that said, you know, our international partners probably don't understand who you are. Instead, we named one of the exercise devices that are on the space station after Colbert, and it comes complete with its own patch. It's got his face inside of an astronaut running on a running track. So, but he is a big, he and John Stewart are big space fans. They constantly have NASA people on their shows. Mike Massimino's been on there a lot. Mike Massimino's also been on, did you see the recent episode of Big Bang? They had a whole storyline about one of the characters going to the space station. Alex Trebek from Jeopardy, he did a PSA for us. Jim Cameron, my young friend there in the middle, Nora Jones, who sang at the congressional ceremony for congressional gold medals for the astronauts. Then she came over to headquarters and did a PSA for us. And I can't see who's in the bottom right. This crazy screen here keeps going blank on me. Oh, the guy that did Scorpion King, Dwayne, whatever his name is. So we get a lot of people that do that. Luke Wilson just did one this past weekend down at the Kennedy Space Center. So that's nice, and then we make those available to television shows so they can show them at 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody's watching. The other thing we're trying to focus my office is moving from vicarious observation of space to actually participation. And this is a big goal of both the Office Management Budget and the Congress. Congress actually directed NASA to do more to develop participatory engagement activities for the public. So we got last year we had $1 million. We used most of that to help support and supplement a program for the Sally Ride Science organization for EarthCam on the space station, a wonderful program where students can actually decide what pictures to take on the space station. They did the same thing on MoonCam on the Grail mission. And so we gave money to that. And then we gave money to MIT to help expand a program, the spheres. Have you seen these small, almost basketball-sized spheres that are in the space station that operate robotically? And there's a competition that students can participate in, so I hope you will check that out because we've given them money now to expand that from MIT to other universities and high schools. So we're looking for new ways of how do we get people to be engaged. You heard from Jeff Manberry yesterday with his wonderful NanoRacks program that puts students on board. We have other student programs for the space station. The Google Lunar X Prize activities that are coming up, a lot of those entries are going to do things to engage the public. So that's what we really want to do. We will soon have a new website that you'll see on the Connect tab on nasa.gov, and it will show you the hundreds of activities we have that you can get involved in as a citizen, but you can directly participate in space missions. We also do an awful lot to support STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math education. We have everything that we do for teachers at the grade school level on up to college and high school programs. We just announced this past week, that the moon buggy, which you see in the bottom right there, our annual Great Moon Buggy competition. And that's for high school and college students to participate, where you have to build a buggy Then you go on this obstacle course, and first of all, you have to start by folding it up and putting it inside a 4x4x4 cube. Then you got to pull it out, crank it open, and then start on the competition. And you see these wonderful, innovative ways that students, sometimes they're back-to-back, sometimes there's one behind the other, sometimes they're side-by-side. This has turned into an international event, and I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I think Puerto Rico ended up winning both the high school and college level. The urban legend on that is when the Puerto Ricans first came, probably 15 years ago, they actually brought all the pieces on their carry-on luggage because they couldn't afford to ship it. So a lot of innovation going on there. The big thing I'm excited about is that communications is now a level 1 requirement. And this is the cover of our new program and project communications plan, that all of NASA's programs and projects are going to have to complete a communications plan to show us at headquarters how are they going to talk about their activity with the public. I actually had an instance where with an Ares 1X launch, the idiots that were the manager for that told me that, well, we don't have a communications requirement. Now, this was going to be one of the first launch of a new rocket after the shuttle program. You don't think there's a communications requirement for that? But to hear them say that just drove me to distraction. So we now have any program or project, before they will be approved, has to have the communication plan. And I think that's going to be great for the public, so that we will now know why do we do all these things. The future, the president said we're going to go back to an asteroid, we're going to an asteroid with humans by 2025. There's been a lot of discussion lately about, well, are we going to do that? Are we going to go back to the moon? Are we going to go to an L2 space station? I don't know what's going to happen. We've got the election's over now. We're hoping that as we figure out what to do with this horrible federal deficit, where does NASA fit into all that, and what can we afford to do? So stay tuned, but there's going to be some wonderful opportunities for all of you, no matter what. The other cool thing that's happening with communications for the space program is all the things happening outside of NASA. And we'll hear more about this during the panel discussion with the Google Lunar X Prize, giving $30 million to the first company that can land a rover on the moon. Extraterrestrial mining, you heard a presentation on that yesterday. What if these guys actually pull this off? I think it's going to be tremendous focus for the public to be interested in what's going on in space. The B62 Foundation is building a privately funded spacecraft to go out and catalog near-Earth asteroids. They're developing now a spacecraft called Sentinel. I think that as a private company start doing those types of things, I think the public is going to be very interested. And there's fabulous opportunities for commercial sponsorship, as you saw with the guy that jumped out of the hot air balloon here last month. Red Bull sponsored that. They got tremendous publicity. You're going to be seeing a lot more of that. The SETI Institute, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That was actually something started in NASA, and then an idiot senator kept giving it the Golden Fleece Award back in the 80s, thinking it was a waste of taxpayers' money. So they went and took that, and by the way, it was only $10 million at the time. They now are a private organization funded by private funding, and they are doing some great things, and they have tremendous interest. They have a huge website, web and Twitter following, but it's got nothing to do with NASA anymore. Then the other thing that I think will help communications is what is the impact, and you heard about this yesterday from Will and Jeff Manber a little bit about what is, and Carissa Christensen, what's the future of suborbital flight? How is that going to impact what the public feels about space? And I think it's going to be, as all these very wealthy people start flying, it's going to bring tremendous interest of what's going on there. It's only suborbital. It's something that NASA did back in the 60s, but I think it's highly exciting for the public. And then when somebody like Bob Bigelow down in the bottom right corner starts having his space hotel, and the first couple that goes there for their honeymoon in space, I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. Well, how does that impact what the public feels about space, and will that in fact be a benefit to NASA? So why do we do all this? What are we trying to communicate? We want to open Earth and space system for the benefit of all humanity. That's what the Augustine Commission said this was all about, and that if we can get people to glom on to that and get behind it, I think we'll do really great things with the space program. The challenge is, how do we get broad-based appeal so that we can actually take humanity up to the next loop of the evolutionary spiral? The questions we're going to address in the next panel are the following. How important is public support to space exploration? And that's what's on our mind every day in the Office of Communication. What is industry doing to gain support? Number 3, what is the role of media in raising spaceflight awareness? And number 4, how has social media affected the interaction between space industry and the public? So those are what we're going to do coming up here next. I would also say that we also want to talk to who is the audience we should be going after. We don't have enough money in communications to go after everybody. And we need to start getting a little more strategic in how we do that. Polling data tells us that students in your age demographic are not big supporters of space. Of course, I always see the exact opposite every time I come to a SpaceVision conference, although this morning, with all the people with hangovers that didn't come to this presentation, I'm wondering. But should we be focusing on you? Because you are the future. Should we be focusing on Congress? Because they're the ones that supply the funding. Should we be focusing on the space attendants, those people that have an appreciation for science and technology, already follow space? Should we be focusing on them? If they're already following space, is that money not well spent? So those are some things we'll get into during the next session or panel. So I hope I've tried to convince you over and with the other speakers that NASA, in fact, is still in business, that we do know how to communicate. We have a tremendous amount of venues, and if the public still, after all those things we do, if they still think we're out of business, then we are doing something radically wrong. And as young people interested in space, I would really appreciate hearing from you all, what is it we're doing wrong? And I'm starting to wonder if maybe they just don't care about the missions we're doing. So let's talk about that a little. We have all these communication venues. We've got these reforms we're going to implement. I think that'll help. But the opportunities abound, and the opportunities abound for you. So I hope you will come and participate with us in the future. My last comment will be 3 words of advice that I always like to pass on to students, which is get a mentor, be a mentor. Get somebody to care about your career and help guide you in what you do. Don't be afraid to change jobs. I have been in and out of NASA 3 different times. As a civil servant, twice as a political appointee. I've been with private industry, with entrepreneurial groups, with media organizations. I've bounced around a lot, not because I couldn't hold the job, but because I wanted to experience the full range of the aerospace sector. I'm a humanities major. I've had tremendous and very exciting jobs. And if I can do that, you all, who I suspect are probably more science and engineering majors, there's no limit to what you can do. I also want to mention you should do whatever you can to affiliate with space grant consortiums in your states. They get money from NASA to help promote public outreach. It's a great way for scientists and engineers to start learning how to communicate, and there's many opportunities for funding to do the things you want to do. And as I said, the average age of NASA is 47. We still have people from the Apollo era there. They can't last forever. And you are going to have some wonderful opportunities, and I really I'm jealous of what can happen for you in the next 5 to 10 years. So with that, we'll see you in orbit, and we'll get ready for the next panel. By the way, I tweet as Space Art Al. My side thing I like to do is art, so feel free to follow me, and you'll learn all kind of cool stuff about the space program. So let's maybe take just a brief break to get our panel up here, and we'll start the next session.